Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing great. Hope everyone out there is doing fantastic. And that you're all having an absolutely wonderful and incredible day. Don't forget to follow me on social media. There are links in the description below. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. I mentioned, and we will probably continue to see this, we are currently in what I like to call seesaw territory. In that, a lot of the news floating around in crypto right now is either very negative or very positive. People either think we are on the cusp of a recession, or people think that the stock market is about to rebound. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground anywhere from where I'm looking. But this does, now that I say it out loud, this does kind of match the energy that we used to see within the cryptocurrency space a number of years ago. But there is a lot of economic uncertainty currently floating around. In very popular news, this is the first part of the seesaw. If you've been here for the last week, I don't know why, but a large amount of the news is being dominated by this kind of news. It appears as if the United States and many other economies are already contracting, showing that they are essentially already a toe in or the entire leg into a recession at the moment. This namely has to do with the tariffs. If you haven't been looking at any kind of news, every time we get some kind of tariff news in the news, the cryptocurrency market goes down and has been closely following the stock market. The weirdest part and I mean the weirdest part, is that retail investors, as we've been going over, have nearly all but checked out of the market. Mentally, physically, emotionally. If you're here, this sounds like a joke. It's not. You're one of the strong ones, because a lot of other people have completely left the market already. It's typical in times of economic uncertainty, what have you. The other side of that is institutions are more bullish than ever. It sounds like a joke, or it sounds like a bit of a conundrum. Maybe it is. No, institutions are buying a lot of crypto. We just had news of Semler Scientific and MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet. They're almost like doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on their purchases and talking about like this is the greatest time to buy, which then leads me to believe, as I said before, is this some kind of an elaborate magic trick? Are we all being tricked in some sort of way by these institutions? Do they know something that we do not? This continues to be very popular news because people think that this is going to happen very soon. Bank of America has predicted that the United States Federal Reserve may implement 4 interest rate cuts over the course of this year. You heard that correctly. Banks believe that the markets are about to go back up starting in May. Because of all the economic uncertainty, the Fed recently announced they would be looking more into slowing down QT, which is quantitative tightening, basically meaning that, they have zipped up their pockets and no money's coming out of it, and potentially moving into QE, quantitative easing, where basically they go, okay, it's time to print some more money now to lift up the economy. We have had news since last summer that institutions believed that the banks, well, that the Fed, if you will, was going to lower interest rates. I think we had something, this was maybe a month ago. JP Morgan analysts anticipate 3 rate cuts this year, and Bank of America is now predicting 4. One in May, one in July, one in September, and one in December. If you missed a lot of the forecasts for where analysts believe the market, the stock market, the economy is going to go by the time we get to December, it starts with an R and ends with a session. Yes, every single analyst believes that by December, if we continue with these trade policies and tariffs, etc., we will be in a multi-year deep recession that will be worse than 2008 and 2009. So, as it appears that every analyst is literally sounding the bell, they're doing something with a bell, talking about how bad things or much worser things are going to get. This is why I have been saying for the last couple of years, hope everyone has a savings account and has been saving money because no one knows where all of this is going. Banks believe that the Fed essentially will kind of be shoved into lowering interest rates to make sure that the economy stays afloat. May, July, September, December. Don't forget, April, May, and June is when all the analysts said the crypto market was going to come rip-roaring back. And this is probably what they meant. The forecast has led to increased expectations of potential easing in monetary policies. And it suggests that there could be a rise in liquidity-related market activity. The bank expressed that it is possible for the Federal Reserve to take steps towards easing monetary policy in the upcoming FOMC meeting. The issue is, my friends, and here's the kicker. Do you know who benefits in the time when the Fed lowers interest rates? It's people with assets. Yeah, it's people holding stocks, it's people holding assets, it's people holding crypto, as we have seen historically that the prices of these things go up when there is a Fed rate cut. Do you know what also happens when there's a rate cut and debt becomes easier to get? Inflation goes up. Whee! That's not a joke. Yeah, inflation goes up, especially if the Fed is going to pivot relatively soon into QE, quantitative easing, turning back on the money printers. This is what China and a number of other countries are currently doing to basically try and soften the fall that the market is currently experiencing. You know who it's not good for? Every other single person. Yeah. So inflation is not at 2%. It's not at 3%. It's not at 4%. I don't know why the Fed and others continue to lie to us about these numbers, because the actual numbers are around like 20, 30%. But you can't have that kind of news floating around about the world reserve currency or any other currency, because it would send everyone into a generalized panic. Yes. As your rent goes up, this is basically due to inflation. As land fees, HOA fees, the cost of water, the cost of blah, 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 your groceries that you're getting, the cost of petrol have not gone up by only 3% year on year. That is the actual true inflation. So a lot of economists basically believe that the Fed is going to lower interest rates. I don't know if we're going to get 4. 4 would be spectacular for people holding assets. We would definitely see the bull run of a lifetime if we got 4 rate cuts. However, on the opposite end, those $15 eggs would become $22 relatively quick. I saw a guy in one of these videos on TikTok. He went to his supermarket. He picked up a package of, I think it was bacon or something like that. It was $12.99, and I was like, good gosh. So yeah, this prediction indicates that an interest rate cut could provide additional liquidity. Oh no, it would. There's no question about it. We would see a literal revival in cryptocurrency prices in a matter of hours. Over the course of a week of us getting it, prices would skyrocket. And in June, If we heard that we were getting more in July, sky's basically the limit at this point. This prediction indicates that an interest rate cut could provide additional liquidity to the markets and lead to an increase in the value of risk assets. Recently released consumer price index and producer price index data have fallen short of expectations, signaling a downward trend in inflation. How do you lie like that so openly? When people can't afford their rent, when people can't afford eggs, there is no downward trend in inflation, especially as countries keep taking on unprecedented amounts of debt. Given these data, okay, expectations are for easing monetary policies have strengthened, even though uncertainties regarding economic growth may arise. Yeah, if we keep getting these this tariff news nonsense, we're not going to go anywhere. And I know that that's a difficult thing to hear for a lot of people because we've been going over it for like the past month and a half. And I said it back then. I was like, if we keep getting unnecessary tariffs, the market's not going to go anywhere. That's part of the problem, my friend. When we got the other ones paused for 90 days, remember how the markets like moved up? It's because they're unnecessary. There's no actual reason for them. They're just dragging the economy down. A lot of banks, a lot of analysts are all, and I told you, we've been going over this for the last couple of weeks. It is the weirdest thing in the entire world. Retail investors, everyday normal people have all but checked out of crypto. It's too much for them. Like, it's just a lot of things going on. However, the other side of it, we're seeing these institutions still buying 13,000 Bitcoin, buying $500 million worth of Bitcoin, adding another $47 million worth of Bitcoin on a Tuesday afternoon to their coffers. The institutions and the banks are talking about the Fed is getting ready to cut rates, that the Fed is going to start QE. So we have a gigantic divide. That's what I've been saying, the whole like seesaw thing, because one side is like, oh boy, this is awful. While the other side is like, no, wait, like this is about to be the best thing that ever happened to the markets. So yeah, that's the 4 times. 4 times is crazy, but we'll see. We're almost there. Expectations for the Federal Reserve to cut rates. And yeah, let's move on. Seesaw time. Wee. Where are the words? Wee. People who are mining Bitcoin continue to feel the crunch, with a number of companies in the space selling more Bitcoin than usual to make ends meet. Said this a couple of days ago. A lot of people got angry once. I don't know why I keep only getting like angry messages, but I don't know. Have a good day to you, sir. Yes, historically, after the halving, the year after the halving, the cryptocurrency market tends to boom. Wee, prices go up. It's a really nice thing to see. However, the cost of mining Bitcoin continues to also go up. If prices do not go up, people stop mining. Like, people will literally unplug their machines. It's an actual thing. Bitcoin's hash rate ends up going down. The decentralization as well of the network also takes a tumble as well. And people who realize that mining Bitcoin is not profitable begin to sell off their coins. We know that a large amount of these coins actually end up hitting the wallets of banks and institutions, like we've heard before from the people mining Bitcoin. But we also have those wallet addresses, and we see this as a very negative thing. If the people who are mining it, the point of mining Bitcoin is to keep it for yourself. You're not, you don't want to sell it. You don't want to sell the gold that you're creating from the machine. Selling means that something's wrong. Something is amiss if you have to sell the gold that you are creating to be able to keep the lights on. And eventually at some point the lights become more expensive and mining Bitcoin becomes more expensive. So what happens? They sell. And this is seen as something very negative. Data firm CryptoQuant said on Tuesday, In their report that people mining Bitcoin last week stepped up their selling as the price of Bitcoin dropped below 80,000 US dollars. The firm said that on the 7th of April, people mining sold a total of, that's a lot, sold a total of 15,000 Bitcoin, the third largest daily outflow this year, worth at least 1 billion US dollars, based on the price that day of Bitcoin going to 75,000 US dollars. There's a chart there. Fantastic. I don't know what the point of that chart actually is for. Increased market volatility in both the stock market and crypto was mainly caused by Trump's erratic announcement on tariffs, leaving traders unaware of how to act. There's no reason for the tariffs. There's literally zero reason. Do you understand how high we would be in prices without any news about tariffs whatsoever? And as of now, as we continue to speak openly, by the time we get to July, that's when the tariffs that are paused are going to reactivate. So if we do end up getting 2 rate cuts, especially in May and July, that would kind of help the market. But you know what would also help the market? Not having these stupid tariffs, because they're not doing anything except for dragging all the markets down. So yeah, this was also major news. Not a lot of people, not a lot of websites were commenting on this. I think there's generally a trend of people not wanting to report things like this. No, as I said before in a video about 4 or 5 days ago, the market has to go up now. We're kind of, I mean, no. We are at a pivotal point in the market where things don't get better. We're going to see a $60,000 Bitcoin kind of as the base point. Remember a couple of weeks ago when I wrote on Twitter and I said here, I was like, yeah, if things don't, whatever, we're going to see a $70,000 Bitcoin. People were like, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. No, we are. I've been here for multiple cycles. Understand what it means to have had this channel for nine and some years. This is the first time this has ever happened. The problem with everything going down is that it's mainly being caused by the tariffs and economic uncertainty. The stock market should be a lot higher. The Fed shouldn't even have to lower interest rates this year. We were doing just fine before. So, yeah. If crypto prices don't recover, if we don't go over and stay over a $120,000 Bitcoin, you're going to start to see people become more bearish because people will begin to continue to unplug their computers and end up selling more Bitcoin. We know that a lot of this Bitcoin is being sold to companies and institutions, but those companies and institutions might also go, okay, we have to sell as well because it's no longer profitable. Yeah, just some logic. That's the mining crunch for Bitcoin. Prices need to go up. I keep telling you guys. And yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, so we had news yesterday that I believe it was Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma. They completely knocked down their Bitcoin reserve bill. They're not doing it. It was a 6-5 vote. 6 for nay. Oklahoma became the first state to announce, I believe. Yeah, okay. At least that I remember. That they're not going to be doing a Bitcoin or a crypto reserve. However, momentum is building among U.S. states, aiming to enshrine Bitcoin as part of their financial strategy. On the 10th of April, both New Hampshire's House and Florida's House Insurance and Banking Committee advanced bills that, if passed into law, would allow state treasuries to hold Bitcoin as a reserve asset. It appears that other places are still moving forward with this, despite what is currently happening. A lot of it, for those of you, once again, as talking as honestly as we can, the reason why you may be hearing negative news about states actually adopting Bitcoin is because of prices. You know why? Because of the tariffs. Yeah, it's all a gigantic knock-on effect. If Bitcoin was at $140,000 like it currently should be, there'd be no discussion. We would see across the board that everyone would be adopting this. But As there's so much economic uncertainty and a lot of state funds would be moved into Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes down to $50,000, yeah, guess who's going to be upset? The people in that state. New Hampshire's House narrowly passed its proposal called HB 302 in a 192 to a 179 vote. The bill will now move to the state Senate, making New Hampshire the fourth state to get this far in the process, joining Arizona, Texas, and it says Oklahoma, but they also just recently knocked theirs down. So, cool. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think some of the states will definitely adopt it. I think there are more Bitcoin-friendly, loving states than others, but once again, and I know it's difficult, and I don't even say this as a joke. I've dealt with this so many times, and I thought people were joking years ago, but I realized quite quickly that they weren't. A lot of times, remember that we are in a very risk-heavy asset class. And it doesn't take a lot to actually move us up in prices. And a lot of times when things move us down in prices, we've discussed them here before. The issue is that a lot of people pretend that they're not happening. Remember in the beginning of 2020, I'll tell you, when I was making videos, I was going over, what was happening and what was in the air, if you will. And a lot of people were like, no, that won't have any effect on Bitcoin. And I was like, well, Bitcoin's a computer code. What you're missing is that for other people, they're going to be afraid. They're going to begin to sell off their assets. And then the stock market will go down. And people were like, dude, I'm so tired of your negativity. And I'm like, okay, cool. By the time we got to March and April, remember, Bitcoin fell down to $5,000. Ethereum was $80. You just have to be relatively realistic in life, but also in all markets. If we get something that is pushing against us, that's constantly making like a huge amount of uncertainty happen within the market, then it probably, is going to have a huge amount of uncertainty in the market. This one can be swept away in a day. There's no need for this one. So we should be a lot higher in price, but until all that uncertainty fades away, okie dokie. Let's move on. Also back in Seesaw. What's happening? I can't believe it. Bullish sentiment could be returning to Bitcoin as a key metric from Binance. The largest crypto exchange in the world shows that buyers are starting to dominate the platform's volumes. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not. I know I just kind of have that voice where it's like, no, I have so many questions in so many different ways. The bullishness in the market has not faded from the side of rich people. Binance noted that they were like, wait, like we're getting a lot of like buy orders and like the actual volume on the exchange is also moving up, which is an indicator that basically people are moving back into crypto. They're more willing to put their money into it to see where the prices actually end up going. I think we're in the word's not wait and see. I don't know what to call this thing. We are constantly seeing, and you must have noticed the trend in the last couple of weeks. There's a huge amount of negativity from the side of retail, but from the institutions, they think the world is literally like we're about to grow a second sun and have like sunflowers everywhere. Like it's so cool. The Binance taker buy sell ratio, which calculates the ratio of buyers, to sellers of Bitcoin on Binance, has returned to neutral territory. Crypto quant contributor Dark Faust, is that his name? Dark Faust? It sounds like a Star Wars name. Dark Faust. Anyway, if you didn't see, about a week, 10 days ago, we were did you see the fear and greed charts? We had actually fallen into the lowest ever. And I mean, like, it looked crazy. We were so far into fear, it looked like it was going to break the actual metric that they had. Apparently, this has returned back to neutral. The ratio currently stands at 1.008, When the ratio is higher than 1, buyers, usually a bullish sentiment indicator, dominates volumes. Conversely, a ratio below 1 indicates that sellers are dominating. And then there's a little pretty chart right there as well. Cool. It's nice to see that things are good. We shouldn't be this low in prices for any given reason whatsoever. There was an article, I don't have it here. There was someone discussing why crypto is acting this way currently. It has to do with institutions. Surprise, surprise, right? Basically, institutions who have thrown billions of dollars at this market. These are institutions who also deal in the stock market. So as they see any kind of uncertainty from the stock market, they basically kind of drag that over into the cryptocurrency space as well as another level of uncertainty, as if like, hey, this might also get a little bad, and therefore they begin to sell off. But B, a lot of people, normal everyday people, kind of have this, if crypto isn't moving up and doing fantastic things, normal people tend to not care. So we've seen before during many market cycles, it doesn't matter when or how, if crypto prices are going sideways, retail tends to leave, institutions tend to buy. This is also, once again, why I keep saying magic trick. Do you understand now? So listen. Remember how we went over before that institution, or rather wallets. There are some wallets that hold like 90% plus worth of Bitcoin. You might have been confused as to how that could have happened. You know, everyone sees that Bitcoin is going to go up. Everyone knows that Bitcoin is going to like do amazing things. But now that you're in it, do you understand why the institutions have all the Bitcoin? Why all the companies and why very few wallets? It's because during periods of insecurity, question marks, people not knowing what's going to happen with the market, the people who buy are always the institutions. Yeah, that's just how it works. That's how it's always going to continue to be. I've been saying for a while, any Bitcoin, we know that gets sold goes into the hands of institutions, but it sounds cheesy and I even hate to think it, but this is when like the big money is actually made. Everyone thinks that you get into crypto, you stand there, you throw $100 into it. You look at the screen again, it says 101,000. Cool, I made it, thanks. And then they go. No, it's rough. It's a very heavy market. It's like we are at the behest of nearly everything that happens, as we do not have currently a $20 trillion market cap. It doesn't take a lot for us to like be swung in multiple different directions, especially when the people who are buying up everything are also into traditional markets. So if they see something wrong with those markets, they think that something wrong should also happen to our markets. And once again, this is why crypto is for the people and should be accumulated by the people, but the people don't actually care about Bitcoin. Isn't that fantastic? Anywho, yeah. I think that's going to do it for this video. As I said before, we're probably going to get a lot more Seesaw news over the course of the next couple of weeks until we get some kind of answer, momentum, something happens. The Fed is going to do this. This is going to happen. The tariffs are completely gone. Yeah, that's just the way that reality is working out. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.